McNair gives it to George, running right up the middle. Touchdown! Titans! There are no flags on the field! It's a miracle!
Safety, now you're one-on-one with it.
Shows why he's the man! In trouble. Sack!
Ladies and gentlemen, Titan Nation, welcome back to another episode of Mr. Titan. Today, we have finally the NFL schedule as the Titans release their schedule yesterday. We're going to be breaking that down. I have a young lady with me who has an incredible career. Everyone in Tennessee should know her. I mean, she is AP Pro Football writer, five-time NSMA Tennessee Sports Writer of the Year, Hall of Famer, covers the Titans, covers the Grizzlies, covers the Preds, basically any team in the state of Tennessee. We have the legend herself, Teresa M. Walker. How you doing, Miss Walker?
I am doing great, Alex, and I'll just say that I'm sorry that it's taken us this long to connect and work. It's just covering a whole state with the NFL at the top of the heap keeps me just a little busy.
No, don't worry. Like I said, I've had a lot of people, most of the Titans media I've had on the show, and I'm like, man, I need to get Teresa. I mean, just to hear your story, just to hear, to pick your brain and stuff, and just knowing the information you have and the experience is something it's worth the wait. Let's just say that.
Well, thank you. And thank you for calling me young because this will be my 28th season covering this franchise every minute since they stepped into the state. And because I am I'll be finishing my 35th year with the Associated Press at the end of November and starting number 36 in December. All of them here in Nashville. So I've certainly seen the growth of the pro sports scene in the state, and I've seen the coaches come and go.
Yeah. So that's a perfect thing, and that's something I want to talk about, throughout the show later on is, the coaching and the change of culture and the change of management and GMs. I mean, you've seen them all. You said 28 years covering the team since they got here. It's pretty wild. Nashville has grown ridiculously, correct?
Oh, without a doubt. It feels like every time I go downtown, whether it's for a playoff game with the Preds or, some sort of an event, another building is under construction. I mean, every time I drive by downtown, it feels like there's a minimum of 8 to 15 cranes working at any given time. And this has been going on for over a decade. It's like, people, please, the moose out front should have told you we're full.
Yeah, it's wild. I remember going down Broadway, maybe early 2000, maybe 9 or something like that, and the crowds were, I mean, it was a decent crowd, but not like, I mean, I don't even go to Broadway anymore unless it's something I have to do, but for the most part, it's so packed, it's so ridiculous, it's crazy how it's changed.
Same here. And my first time in Nashville was back in 1986. I was a state intern at the legislature when you didn't go to Broadway at all. You just stayed away from there because where the arena is now, I think there was fencing even back in the 80s. And it was kind of like, do not go there. You would, the Ryman hadn't really been renovated at that point. They were working, the plans were getting into place for renovation of the Ryman. But nowadays I go downtown when I'm covering a Predators game, going to a concert at the Ryman or at the arena. That's about, I've got to be paid almost to go downtown these days.
Yeah, it's ridiculous how much is going on. Like you said, construction 24/7 now. Like I said, if you go on Broadway and it's not construction, then I don't know. Even back then there was still construction. So
And now the Titans are even working on building a new stadium. The other day I tried to sit down and count up how many different basketball arenas or gyms or football stadiums I've covered games in across the state. And when this one opens, that will add yet another one to them. And I don't have that many fingers and toes. I'm going to have to, bring in some cousins or something to help count up all the buildings, because I don't know if I have not been in all the high school gyms, but if it's a college gym, I've pretty much been in it.
Wow. Don't freak out if I have a Derrick Henry cutout, but ever since he's been traded to the Ravens, he keeps falling down. So maybe it's like, like a sign that maybe I shouldn't have him up anymore. But I like it. So just in case it falls down, that's don't be scared.
Well, and just remember, if he does make it into the Pro Football Hall of Fame one day, it'll be because of the career he had here in Tennessee, no matter whatever happens in Baltimore. And I won't be surprised if he goes there and finds his way to a Super Bowl championship, which the last day he talked to us after his last game in Nashville, he made clear that was one thing he wanted. I know there's some sour Titan fans. We should have found a way. Well, he has the right as a free agent to go seek to seek what's best for him, and he's trying to win a Super Bowl, and it's tough to hold that against him.
Yeah. Nothing but love for Derrick Henry. And yeah, they have those sour Titan fans that kind of don't understand maybe how free agency works. It's not only the beneficial for the Titans. I mean, Derrick Henry has his choice and his availability to do whatever he pleases. That's what free agency is. So it is what it is. But I hope, he competes, and I hope he gets a chance, because he deserves it.
Well, and just hope you don't get a stiff arm from that cutout at some point when it does come, if it falls back in. So just be ready to duck.
No, I'll leave it right there, and hopefully the duct tape that I have will work a little bit better. But let's talk a little bit about your background before anything. What got you into becoming a writer? Was there anyone inspiration wise?
Well, I'm nosy, and I always wanted to tell people what I know as quickly as possible. So growing up, I watched sports with my mom, not my dad, my mom. And she and I are the ones that would watch the NFL in back in the 70s, when it was Phyllis George on the CBS Today show, the pregame show. And then Jane Kennedy followed in her footsteps. But there was a TV show, Lou Grant, where they spun off from the Mary Tyler Moore show, and they had a reporter, female, Billy Newman. And she was, it's like, ooh, that looks like a cool gig to have. I actually tried to start my own neighborhood newspaper, but ran into challenges with print and paper costs, and I didn't have access to a copier or a car. So I was still in junior high at the time. So that idea lasted exactly one issue. But yes, I've always wanted to be a reporter, or at least tell people what I know. And when I got to college, at the University of Tennessee, when I got there, you could take either a year of math or a year of biology, and to be a journalist. And that was a whole lot better than all the math and science that was required if I want, I once thought I might be a doctor. And as I saw how all that math and science, it's like, nope.
Yeah,
no, not for me.
No, thank you.
So luckily, out of the University of Tennessee, I got a job at the local hometown paper, the Daily Times in Maryville. Worked there for 2.5 years, covering police, courts, school boards. Covered one high school game when somebody quit. And newspapers don't pay great. That hasn't changed from the 70s, 80s. And wrote a feature story, wrote a column. That was about all the sports I got to do. And then the Associated Press called 6 weeks before I was going to quit the business, because pay was and remains a big issue in this industry. I was going to quit the business and go work on a cruise ship, and the Associated Press called. And I'm finishing up I'm in 34.5 years in, all here in Nashville, in the state of Tennessee, with the Associated Press. So I'm really glad that the Houston Oilers moved to Nashville. That Nashville, that then Mayor Phil Bredesen put out a $20 million bond to whoever brought a pro team to Nashville first. Predators got that. And then the Grizzlies thought, well, why not? Let's go talk to Vancouver. And when I heard they had a group in Vancouver talking about trying to relocate the Grizzlies, I said, that'll never happen. Since then, I've seen Allen Iverson in a Grizzlies jersey. I have seen Randy Moss in a Titans jersey. Since 2001, I've kind of learned never say never, because I mean, at this point, there's a group here in Nashville that is working as we speak to get the Super Bowl in the new stadium at some point in the future. And when NFL owners meet in Nashville, I wouldn't be surprised if they, announced a couple more Super Bowls. And honestly, I expect the Titans to be hosting a Super Bowl February 29, because they want to make sure that the stadium gets open and is open for a year to give leeway for that to happen. But I won't be surprised at all. I've been expecting and predicting that will happen next week when the owners are in Nashville for just their second league owners meeting in the city of Nashville. So, putting more work on my plate is what they're doing.
Well, it seems like your job and your future is set, if you think about it, till 2029, right?
Knock on wood, yes. If I can retire on my terms, that is the goal, and it's getting tougher to do. But I've covered, I call 5 3/4 Super Bowls as part of being one of our pro football writers. The one that was in Tampa, COVID had restrictions on the number of credentials, so I worked that one from this spot, doing all the Zooms through the week. I didn't work the game, so that's why I take a quarter off. Otherwise, it would be 6 Super Bowls. And I'll be going to my 7th Olympics, helping cover women's basketball this July in Paris, France. So it's not a bad gig.
Yeah, not bad at all. You seem like you travel a lot, so that's good, right?
Yes, this job has taken me to Korea, Japan, Brazil, London, Vancouver. So it's and all across the country. So I've got a pretty good gig here. So and for people who might be wondering, when is she retiring? Sorry, not sharing that information, because I'm not done, and nowhere near done yet.
Good, because we want you here in Nashville, and like I said, love all your work, and you do an excellent job. So you deserve, you traveling. Obviously, you're working, but you're still traveling. So, congrats on that one. And that Paris thing, Olympics, that's big. That's cool. That's real cool.
It is fun. It'll be my 7th Olympics overall, and my 3rd straight summer games doing women's basketball. And if you want, the easiest link, apnews.com. Download the app on your phone or go to that site on your computer, and it's free. And we're the world's oldest and largest news gathering organization. And yes, I'm very proud to be a member of this organization.
Well, that's awesome. There you go. And let's talk a little bit about being in Nashville for so long, covering the Titans for so long. You've gone through a list of coaches, right? And it seemed like, in my opinion, and maybe other people's eyes, I don't know, Mike Rabel seemed to really, really engage very well with you in the press conference, right? He seemed like you were the first question, or you're the first person to go to. How was Mike Rabel's coaching, I guess, career in Tennessee? What would you overall give it?
Well, I mean, 6 seasons. He got them to their second AFC Championship game. He played to the strengths that he had. He had Derrick Henry. When you have a Derrick Henry, you're going to run the ball a lot. Now the problem is we all have speculation on what happened behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. And the fact of the matter is, the person who was fired before Mike Vrabel, a year before Mike Vrabel was shown the door by Amy Adams-Strunk, was the GM who traded away the best receiver that this organization had drafted since it moved to Tennessee. And yes, I include Derek Mason on that list. Why? Well, Derek Mason was a 4th round pick. When you get the production and success that Derek Mason had for this team, that out of the 4th rounder, that's finding a gem in the late rounds. Yeah. And when you take an AJ Brown where he did, that's a guy that should produce. And he was producing, and he was a Pro Bowler. And you trade him for an 18th pick overall. He goes off to Philly and does exactly what that deal needed to have been done. You just get some deals done. That was one that is one that and then you have all the, 3 straight seasons leading the league in injuries. At the beginning, some of it's just bad luck. Some of it is, what are you doing? Some of it is the personnel you're bringing in. I mean, let's be honest. The drafting of Caleb Farley, weeks off of his second back surgery, didn't play a game the year before. Drafting Dylan Radins out of the FCS level. FCS tackles worked well for this team. Michael Ruse was an FCS Eastern Washington product who came in and essentially was a starter from day one on the right side and then moved to the left side when Brad Hopkins retired. But, he didn't have any problems adapting to the NFL. But when you play one game because of the pandemic, maybe those shouldn't have been your first 2 picks that year. I'm just saying.
Yeah, definitely. That's rough. That's rough, right? So, now out of all the coaches that the Tennessee Titans had, who was your favorite and why?
Well, it's easy to say Vrabel because, I did get the first question from him. And if I wasn't there, he gave it to another woman. And as a female in sports media, I quite appreciate that because, women, we have a different timbre to our voices. And, guys are shouting out 2 and 3 and 4 questions. And they're, sometimes I have a husband. Let's just say there's times when I know he should be listening to me and he doesn't hear me. So I do appreciate that if I wasn't there, Mike Vrabel gave the first question to a female in the media corps or in the group to give the chance to ask questions first. But I got along well with Mike Mularkey. He would tell me, what if he didn't want to say something, I'm not going to say it. I asked for his number. He refused to give it to me and told me that he asked his assistant coaches not to share their numbers because they were trying to keep information in-house. I respect that because they were announcing a lot of their own news. So you didn't see it filtering out through national sources until his job was in jeopardy. And that's why when, the reports that he was coaching for his job, those didn't come from the local folks. It came from the national folks because it was coming from somebody in the front office. It wasn't connected with the coaching staff, that's for sure. Gotcha. Jeff Fisher, he's the one that I've covered the longest. I mean, I sat with him when they had boxes from the moving truck at TSU up and down the hall before their first training camp in '97. Wow. So I was certainly around him the longest. He was the coach when I got to go from Jacksonville in an AFC Championship game to Atlanta covering my first Super Bowl. So probably the one that loved Mike Munchak because he was a guy that. He was a challenge to transcribe because he speaks so fast, but he was a great guy, and it just feels that he didn't get much of a chance. Let's not forget he was hired and introduced on February 7th, 2011. I remember this because it was my husband's birthday, and I was late for birthday dinner. But he was hired so late, it was tough to fill maybe the coaching staff the way he would have preferred. And, let's just be honest. I was in Memphis we all thought that his job was safe after a trip to Houston to meet with Tommy Smith. And then he's fired the next day. So the one who's probably at the bottom of the list, Ken Wisenhunt, the guy who called the Nashville media, called us pessimists in his first August. And it's like, we are Nashville media. Yeah. Don't go to New York, brother, if you think we're negative. I'm just saying. And Brian Callahan, so far, he's giving us some good answers. He's giving us some detailed answers, and he's being very clear on stuff he won't talk about. Yep. When he was asked about Tavondre Sweat's weight, and during the Ricky's mini camp that we had, he said, "Listen, I'm not going to be talking about guys' weights." And I appreciate that truthfulness because it's not going to stop us from asking, but at least he said, guys, we're not talking about weight. And then when you look at the video of Tavondre Sweat running through those, I mean, it's like, I wish I could run at that. And I am way skinnier than Tavondre Sweat right now. Although Tavondre, I saw the little snippet that he had with Mike Keith. I know he bleeds burnt orange. He's going to get an education on the first UT that has the right color orange.
Right color orange, right? Not the Longhorn one.
Exactly. And I'm just saying, young man, study up on your history. Tennesseans know very well that there wouldn't be a Texas if it weren't for some volunteers from the state of Tennessee.
There you go.
I'm just saying.
There you go. is spoken like a true alumni.
Well, I did go there, but I also grew up, my family's from Blount County, and there's a
Okay.
little place called the Sam Houston Schoolhouse there. And who's the first true governor of the state of Texas? Sam Houston from East Tennessee. So
Okay.
I'm standing up for my state.
That's good. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Now talking about the shift and tone of the Tennessee Titans, I feel like, going into this year, obviously we have Rand Carthon, second year, Brian Callahan, he's bringing in his coaching staff. And is it a breath of fresh air? Do you feel like this is a forward direction, a positive direction for the Tennessee Titans in this organization now?
With every new coaching staff, you have that feeling.
Yeah.
And
Right.
the thing that makes this different is the fact that, there's a lot. I mean, Brian Callahan, has been very open that, his boss in Cincinnati, Zach Taylor, worked with him a lot, showed him what he was doing, why he was doing things as a head coach. So, and he has a former NFL head coach on the staff in his dad, Bill Callahan, who, in 2002, his Raiders cost me a trip to the Super Bowl in San Diego that year. I was packed for a 2-week stay in California, and unfortunately, the Titans, the injuries just caught up with them, and Steve McNair could not carry them any further than he had at that point. But the thing that maybe feels a little different is, hearing Will Levis say last week, we're going to be throwing the ball. We're going to be throwing it on first down. I mean, let's be honest. It felt like the last couple of years that since they had such a great offensive production in 2019 and even in 2020, it felt like it was, run, pass had become the joke.
Yep.
And the statistics kind of back that up. So if they start coming out, and that's the thing, the way they have addressed the offensive line, massive need, 64 sacks allowed. And, Brian Callahan talked good at his inter-news conference that, well, you can scheme things to buy some time. Well, you can, but let's be honest. Having a mountain of a human in J.C. Latham on the left side of the line
helps tremendously, right?
Huge. And, they've gone out and gotten pieces. I mean, we don't, they've had to go out and address to fix some past mistakes by this franchise. By not having AJ Brown, not knowing what they have in Traylon Burks, they had to go out and get Calvin Ridley and pay him. They made, they bring in Tyler Boyd, who knows this scheme very well. So they've added some skill position players. Tony Pollard, somebody who I covered at the University of Memphis. Guess what? When they make a change between Pollard and Spears, we're not, they're not tipping their hand anymore. This is a pass. No, this is a run. They're going to be able to disguise on offense. It's been a while since we've seen the Titans be able to do that offensively. That's going to be huge for them. Secondary that struggled so much, that's completely been remade. So no Sean Murphy-Bunting, Christian Fulton, who had a chance last year in his contract year to prove if he deserved another deal here. Didn't do it. So now we have a new secondary. We have a new inside linebacking core. There have been a lot of changes on this roster. So for a breath of fresh air, well, change always brings that.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing I have learned in my years of experience is somebody can look great in May, June, July, August. Show me once the games start being counted for real.
Yep, definitely. Looks good in the training camps when they're not hitting each other with pads and nothing, and the passes are being thrown. There's no pressure, but it's different when the game's on the line and stuff. But talking about the change of position of, you said, Tajay Spears and stuff like that. I remember back, when we had Dion Lewis, it would be very, very, very obviously you had Derrick Henry would play first and second, and then third down, you had Dion Lewis come, and guess what? It was a screen pass, right? Screen pass will get blown up, and they constantly ran it. And it's something, again, it's a good change to where we don't know when the fans know what's happening. That's a problem, That's a problem.
Yes, because the guys who are paid to do nothing but dissect film and break down an opponent's tendencies, they can see that at a glance. If we can see it,
Exactly.
as fans and media, the pro football guys can see it instantly. I mean, and that's the thing. And now, props to Derrick Henry. He worked really, really hard, became a much better pass catcher. The pass that he high pointed, I think, in the Miami game last year was his best catch ever. I mean, he looked like a wide receiver going up and getting that ball and getting it at the high point. So, Lamar Jackson's going to really appreciate him this season. And I'll be honest, I voted in a poll yesterday. The team that I think that will challenge the Chiefs this year and could possibly win the Super Bowl, I think it's the Ravens. Why? Derrick Henry joining Lamar Jackson, that is going to be, I mean, who do you stop there? And that's not even, I don't even know who else is on that team to catch passes. I don't care, because the two of them will be able to do enough damage on the ground as it is. Yeah. They're my favorite to come out of the AFC North. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and it's sucks to say that, but especially going to the Ravens, I feel like the Ravens, Steve McNair, or Derek Mason, it's like a history. It's a terrible history to seeing great Tennessee legends. So what's going to happen? Derrick Henry is going to fall as a Titan legend. To see him, unfortunately, in that nasty looking purple uniform, but I mean, it is what it is, right?
It's the business of the NFL, and as the schedule release taught us, it is all about business all the time in the NFL. And that's the thing. The Titans now have two backs that, if they want to put them both back there, if they want to, alternate them, however Brian Callahan chooses to use those two, they're not going to be tipping their hand, and that's going to make it easier on Will Levis, the receiving core, the running back, the entire offense. And this is an offense that, well, let's face it, it's tough to go much worse. So at this, I said a year ago, I didn't think they could get worse, and they found a new level. So I'm going to avoid that, but there should be able to be seen signs of improvement as an offense this year.
Definitely. Now, out of the whole team in general, what are some key spots that we still need to work on and clean up? Obviously, you still have the offensive line. Is it middle? Is it linebacker? What do you think? Is it still depth in wide receiver?
I think they're good at wide receiver. They just added the tight end, the veteran tight end with 8 years under his belt. Exactly. So they've added some depth there. I wouldn't be surprised to see him add another tight end as well. Safety. It feels like they're going to add a veteran safety before training camp starts. But I think they want to see what they've got on the offensive line for the right side, tackle and guard, and let the guys that they have on the roster as of now compete. And then once they've gotten through the preseason and those final cuts, then we'll see if they make it some changes and bring some people in. Because they finished so badly last year, they're going to be near the top of the waiver wire. So they're going to have a chance at some people, which will give them the opportunity, if somebody doesn't blossom the way they hope to, that gives them the chance to go add some depth and possibly even corner, because right now we know that they've got Snead, they've got Chido Awuzie, they've got Roger McCreary, they drafted a cornerback. But let's be honest, you can never have enough depth in the secondary. 100%. So that may be an edge rusher if somebody comes available, defensive lineman. But right now, maybe an inside backer. But right now the combination of Kenneth Murray and Caleb Gray, I think at this point it's building up depth for camp, and then see how these guys go. And I will caution, how many times have we seen somebody have an incredible preseason and then they just dropped off the map once the season starts? I mean, Corey Davis, I thought, was going to have a couple of great years.
Yep.
Not so much. There's a reason they didn't pick up his 5th-year option, and he ended up where he ended up. So what they've got to see, and for people wanting to trade Treylon Burks, stop it. No, forget. They need depth. You don't write off a guy who is on a rookie contract for 2 more seasons.
Yeah, that'll make sense.
Exactly. If he shows you enough this year that maybe you still like him, but you don't want to pick up his 5th-year option next year, fine. Let him play out his 4th year of his deal, and then maybe he plays his way into a big contract. And at that point, you make a decision: we're keeping him or not. Calvin Ridley, 29. DeAndre Hopkins is about to be 32 this summer. You need some younger pieces in that receiving core. And Tyler Boyd, he's been in the league a few years as well. So you do need young receivers. And best thing for this team, no offense, probably Kyle Phillips or Nick Westbrook-Akine may not be on this roster for the final cuts, because I'm thinking they keep 6, maybe 7 receivers with what Callahan's doing. You need Treylon Burks to at least be the 4 at the worst, and then go from there, because the top 3 right now, Hopkins, Ridley, Boyd, Burks, and then boys fight it out for the rest of it.
Yeah, I could see NWI as also making it. I mean, he's been for the past maybe year or two, like he's been the most consistent wide receiver for the Titans. I mean, other than D Hop, but there was a point where NWI was getting that look and stuff. So yeah, the wide receiver core, I like what they did, but it's like you said with depth. I mean, we've seen it a couple of years past. Again, we have like that issue of like our wide receivers dropping like flies, right? Getting hurt, hamstring. I mean, I know that's in the past and stuff, but still relatively still in my brain of how injury prone this team was. I mean, I know it's a different realm now, different people, but it still plays that factor in the back of my head.
I'm just going to say, every Titans fan, I completely get the PTSD. Trust me, every Friday and every Saturday and Sunday, it felt like I was writing stories about somebody getting hurt, going on IR, coming off IR, being activated to play. And I mean, it felt like I was on a merry-go-round that I could not get off of with the injuries. But there's been changes. They kept some of the people in the strength and conditioning department. They have a new head and of that department. We'll see what Zach Woodman can do to get them in that position, so that but I'll still go back to this. You can train somebody to a certain point, and they were taking into account science. They had the gadgets that they would take out of their uniform, so they knew how hard they were working at practice, how much speed were they getting that day. Brian Callahan dropped that Treylon Burks hit 22.6 miles per hour on the field recently, right? Mm-hmm. They know what these guys are doing. They can measure it. But the problem is, when you've got guys who can't stay healthy, sometimes it's because maybe they didn't come in healthy. I also remember the Jake Locker tenure where, he got hurt because he was so competitive that and it's an area that they're going to try to work with Will Levis, because, I don't think, honestly, I do think that Bo Hardigree might tackle him himself if he, tries to chase down another defender and go poke the ball loose like he did in a game last year. So you're going to get picked off in the NFL. You're going to turn the ball over. The key is to erase those mistakes. Don't go put yourself in harm's way by trying to make a tackle. So, train better, smarter, and then play smarter. Yeah. It kind of all comes together.
Yeah, 100%. And it was funny that you brought up, playing in the practice, and yeah, you can look good in practice, you can do this, but it only depends on how you do in the game. And I remember it was a couple years back with Marcus Mariota. I remember people were talking about how he was hitting all his targets, hadn't had a thrown an interception all of training camp. First preseason game, first snap, he throws it a pick. So it doesn't really, like, that's all, like I said, it's all rubbish.
Exactly. And that's the thing. People will ask me, how are they looking in training camp? They always look great because, at a certain point, the defense knows what the offense is doing. Offense knows what the defense is doing. You get sick of looking at each other, but nobody is showing their cards in the preseason. It's as vanilla can be. And you're not going to tell anything until literally this year. For this team with a new coach and a new offense and a new defensive scheme approach, we're not going to know what they're doing and what they're focusing truly. We'll know who's starting where, what, and when, but not until they snap the ball in Chicago against the Bears. Or wait a minute, who is it that in their wonderful schedule release called them? I can't, now I'm blanking, but it's like, when you can't pick out the Bears logo, it
was funny.
Now, they were all funny. So it's like, and somebody told me today they thought that they were kind of picking on people, and I thought, like, no. I think it just goes. It's a healthy reminder that as huge as the NFL is, it still has an audience to grow to if they can't pick out the name of the team from the logo.
Well, definitely when also too, right, is mid midday in Broadway where you have tourists going out to drink. So I bet you half of them were also intoxicated too. So it makes it even better. It's pretty funny.
It's very funny. And my question for the social media team is, did that gentleman in the cowboy hat, did he literally say you shouldn't have gotten rid of Kirk Cousins twice?
Twice.
Or did they just use that for both the Washington Commanders and the Minnesota Vikings? But if he said that twice, that is gold.
That is funny. Again, let's talk about the 2024 schedule as the Titans released, the media team released. Again, another funny video drop, again, using the girl from last year's. I liked how they kind of piggybacked and brought her back. That's very good. That's very good marketing. I liked it. I liked it a lot.
The Red Stallions.
Red Stallions. Did it everything. That's gold right there. Yeah. So now, talking about the Tennessee Titans schedule, what is the first thing you thought of it when you first saw it? I mean, I kind of look at the bye. Where's the bye place in the whole schedule? It's an early bye, I think week 4. No,
Week 5.
Week 5, which is, again, not the greatest. Another thing is we only have one primetime game against the Dolphins. Again, I'm not too mad about that. A lot of people get really hung up on, oh, how many prime games we have, this and that. The times that we had the prime game, we kind of never showed up. I understand. And then the last month, we play AFC South divisions. That's a little questionable. I don't like that at all. I hate playing Houston the last game of the season. I went to Jacksonville when they had Josh Dobbs. I was there. I don't like those games. Those games make me nervous. But what's the first thing that kind of popped out in the schedule for you?
Balance early, because out of their first 4 games, 2 are at home, 2 are on the road. Then yes, unfortunately, an early bye. But you usually would like that at least later in October, or and they did have it late October this last year because they were coming back from London. And then they played October 29th, Will Levis's debut against Atlanta, the Red Stallions, aka. But yes, I mean, the NFL is trying to build suspense, and they've done that with the way they keep backloading divisional games. They're keeping playoff spots up in the air as much as possible. And, so this is giving them a chance to, the Callahan system will be in place. Yeah. And if the changes on the strength and conditioning staff, and if players stay healthier, and they're not the team in the NFL using the most players for the first time in 4 years, then guess what? They've got, I think, 5 of the final 7 games, I think it is, are divisional games. Yeah. So they can make hay inside the division down the stretch. And at that point, and they've made it clear, yes, they want to throw the ball, but they're not abandoning the run. And Tony Pollard, he can run up the middle, so can Spears. And that's going to give them a chance to, and another thing, 3 of those final 5 games at home, giving them a chance to reclaim the home field advantage and try to build some momentum. So those combinations, it's kind of like, it's not, you'd like the bye to be later, but it is almost a coach's dream, because there's the Miami game at night, and then there's a Chargers game on Pacific time. Everything else is a noon Central kickoff. Yeah. And so that's a kind of, you just build up a circadian rhythm at that point that allows you to just go to work and not have to think so much. Your body is attuned, you're ready to go. And oh yeah, they front loaded a whole bunch of Jets games in the primetime era. We'll see quickly. And flex option gives the NFL and the Titans chances to earn more primetime games if they come out of the gate strong.
Well, here's something I kind of noticed too, and I wrote down on paper was Titans kind of their advantage with opponents in this year. I mean, week 2, the Jets are coming off a Monday night game. That helps us. Week 6, we're coming off a bye against Indy. Buffalo, Week 7, they're coming off a Monday night game. Week 12, Houston, again, coming off a Monday night game. Week 15, the Bengals coming off a Monday night game. So there is some positivity towards that, depending on how the team manages, but, with that extra rest or no rest. So, I mean, we'll see. I mean, we'll see what happens. First thing that jumps off, Bears, game 1. What do you think? Again, we have the start of Williams, right? Caleb Williams.
Well, and I think they end up facing 4 of the rookies that were taken in the
Yep.
first round this year. So, and trust me, I know that this franchise, at least in the state of Tennessee, has a bad record, or feels like they have a bad record when they're facing rookie quarterbacks. Right? Ryan Leaf has one of his rare NFL wins at the hands of the then Tennessee Oilers in '98 when they played at Vanderbilt. That said, the fact that they've got the Bears as a 4.5-point favorite right now, if I bet, I'd be putting some money on the Titans in that game because not only do I think the Titans will make sure the Bears don't cover that, I think the Titans have a great chance to go in there and win that game because again, it's their debut. You're not, yes, it's a debut for Caleb Williams, but Will Levis, he was 3-6 as a starter last year. He has been working all off season trying to get up to speed with this new offensive scheme, and he's got more tools and weapons to work with. So, I mean, when you look at how little time he had to throw last year,
Did something.
yes, I cannot, and the way he played in that Miami game against Atlanta, I am very much looking forward to, and what the old cliche, a player takes his biggest jump between year 1 and year 2 in the NFL. Now, Will Levis is dealing a little bit with what Marcus Mariota dealt with, a change in offensive coordinators, but they're working this together pretty well. So I can't wait to see, and Will Levis, as competitive as he is, I mean, I know I saw him at the Masters. I know he's been there, that he's been everywhere, it seems, this offseason, but he's also been working to do his part to be ready to be the starter. So if I'm betting, I'm putting money on the Titans that day.
Definitely. Let's talk about game 2. There he is. We have game 2. We have Aaron Rodgers goes to Nissan Stadium. What do you think about that?
Well, Aaron Rodgers is 40 years old. I need to see how he looks coming off an Achilles injury at the age of 40. And hey, the NFL schedule makers and everybody love him. I mean, they certainly really, really are giving him a lot of time to show off what he can do. But as the person in the Titans schedule release said, peaked in 1970. So let's see I'm sorry, but Tom Brady, yes, played into his mid 40s.
Yeah.
But Tom Brady didn't look 40 when he doesn't look 40 now.
Yeah.
Tom Brady looks like he's 40, just for men, Aaron. I'm just saying, maybe use something, but we'll see. I mean, he's a very competitive person. He's an NFL MVP guy. We're going to have to see how that translates in New York, but it's the home opener for Tennessee, a new coaching staff. I think that sets up nicely for the Titans to get a home win because again, new system, new defense, new weapons on offense.
Definitely. And if you haven't seen the Tom Brady roast, have you seen it yet?
I watched it live.
Oh my God, it was great. It was great.
It was very blue. As somebody who grew up watching the Dean Martin roasts and watched how they could skewer each other without using any colorful language, they set a tall standard. But Nikki Glaser was the best, maybe with the crypto joke.
She nailed it. We have now the only primetime game against the Miami Dolphins. Monday night, we go back to Miami, where, again, last year's game, one of the biggest comebacks, positivity everywhere of the Dolphins game. Now, the Dolphins is weird, though, right? Every time we go to Miami or they play, it's something always happens. I mean, look, Delaney Walker, ankle injury, longest longest game ever in the NFL. It's always something with Miami, it makes me nervous. Again, I'm from Miami, so knowing that I have a bunch of friends, family members always texting me, especially when the game's about to happen. I hate it. I don't like playing them because I rather, which has been good. We've been winning, we've been beating the Dolphins, but man, it comes a time where if we lose, man, I'll never hear that whole year. They're just talking about that. It's so annoying.
Well, Alex, I'm somebody that growing up, I had two teams that I watched in the NFL, and I was born south of Miami.
Okay.
So and actually watched the Dolphins back in the day when they had a dolphin in a pool at the Orange Bowl in
Oh
one end
wow,
zone.
Ace
Yes.
Ventura.
Exactly. It actually did happen. It wasn't just a movie thing.
Really?
So yes, really. And Bob Greasy actually one time played in glasses. I mean, so yeah, that's showing. I was a child when I watched those games, but I've been around for a minute. But you're not wrong. Weird stuff happens when they play the Dolphins, whether it was Steve McNair being picked off 3 times by Sam Madison, for God's sake, in one game. So longest game ever where it never rained over the field. It's a good thing it's not Brian Callahan's first game to
Oh
his
god.
coaching career, because that would have just not been a good setup. But being at night, that should hopefully avoid some of the weather issues that they can have. And I know that South Florida people will be saying, well, we're used to the heat and the humidity. It's different here. Yeah, I heard that about Jacksonville too in 2007. And the Titans, that was the year that the temperatures in August it felt like 100 or above for the entire month of August. Remember the opener in Jacksonville? They ran at the end of the third quarter from one end of the field to the other and ran all over the Jaguars that day with Lendale White and CJ or Chris Johnson. I think it was Chris Johnson, but certainly Lendale White piled up a lot of yards. So yeah, Miami, there's weird stuff that happens there, but I think that they're going to feel pretty confident knowing that Miami's going to want some payback. So they'll go into that game ready.
Yeah, that's one. Like I said, playing Miami, never like to, but the recent years we had their number. So then we have the bye week, and then we play our first AFC opponent. We finally play the Colts at home, which is a home game, which is good. That's kind of a toss up, to be honest with you. I usually with division games, for the most part, we split them, but recent years, we haven't been too good. And what do you think about the Colts?
I think Zaire Franklin gave Callahan all the bulletin board material he needed within the last week or two with what he said, essentially zoning in on Houston. And let's see if Anthony Richardson is in that game, because it's October and the way he runs around, and they may fix that. They may give him some better protection. And I've seen video of him running around throwing the ball just like I have Caleb Williams. Everybody looks awesome in May.
Yep.
So we'll see. The AFC South is got probably the best potential group of quarterbacks of any division, certainly the best batch of young quarterbacks. We'll see. Divisional game, but you bless you again. You should be able to defend your home field against a divisional opponent. That is the standard. You need to win your home games.
Definitely. Then October 20th, we play the Bills. Again, the Bills and the Titans have had this rivalry for a long time. For a while, it was very competitive, and then it looks like the Bills have kind of faded out. I don't know. What do you think about the Bills?
I have major questions about their receiving core because of the changes that they made this offseason. And have they filled those holes enough? Josh Allen can't save them, but he doesn't have Gabe Davis. He doesn't have Stephon Diggs. Who's going to catch the ball for them? So yeah, I do have questions about that. And that's don't want to be a table around them team, but that's going to be an interesting game, because again, I think they're coming off, as you mentioned, a Monday night game, short week, Titans have to travel, but at that point, as much as the Buffalo Bills may be settling in, so should the Tennessee Titans, because they will have had some rest thanks to the earlier bye, chance to go over some things, make some corrections from the first month, and iron some things out. So at this point, the Titans are going to have a chance to go up there and show what they can do, and we'll find out a lot about them that week. Probably even more though in the next week, which is their first of their 2-game road swings.
Yep. And they play against the Lions in Detroit. And, Jared just got a nice little extension, right? So he's good. What do you think about that? Again, this is one of the 3 teams that we're playing right now that were in the playoffs from last year. Now you have Detroit Lions.
The Lions seem to be making an ascent up under that coach. I mean, Dan Campbell, he got his first win as an interim coach coming into Nashville
Miami
exactly.
Yep.
And for the guy who had people laughing at him for, talking about how they were going to bite off kneecaps, he's turned that team into, they've got a grit about them. They've got an edge. And honestly, I would not be surprised to see them, with the weapons that they've got offensively. I wouldn't be surprised to see them make a run at the Super Bowl this year. So that's going to be a very, very tough game for the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, and funny thing about me knowing that Dan Campbell is, because I remember, that's what one thing I do not like is when a team does a coaching change mid-season, because the Titans were the next ones up, and I was like, oh man, this is not good. My family members were ready, like, oh, this, that, and this and that. I was like, and yeah, they came in and they did some work on the Titans. I remember that.
Like the rookie quarterback situation, the interim head coach change in the season has been a big bugaboo for this franchise. What in their tenure in Tennessee, it just has. I don't know if there's a voodoo doll somewhere.
I don't know what it is, but it always happens. You're just like, oh no, they did a change. Well, next we have a home game against the Patriots. Now, what do you think about this new Patriots team? I mean, it's not the Tom Brady Patriots. It's not. I mean, it's. What do you think?
Bill is gone. Gerard Mayo. VFL. He's going to have first year head coach. He'll be at the middle point of the season. He should be in a groove. But what are they? Bill Belichick didn't exactly leave the shelves stocked in New England, and it feels like that's a team that should be a win, simply because the Patriots are rebuilding, and they've got, I think Mayo's going to be a good head coach, but they've got to get more talent on that roster. So ideally, with what the Titans have done spending-wise, draft-wise, that's a game they should win.
Definitely. Then, an away game to the West Coast, we play the Chargers. We played Jim Harbaugh. What do you think about that one? I think that's gonna be a really nice challenge for the Titans. Just like you said about the Lions, yeah, I think there's a couple of games that kind of stick out where it's like a true testament of where this Tennessee Titans team is.
Well, the Chargers are a tough one, because the last time they played the Chargers, Ryan Tannehill had the season-ending injury, which is why Josh Dobbs ended up starting that game in Jacksonville, where they were just a couple of minutes away from a 3rd straight AFC title. Jim Harbaugh, another guy, not new to the NFL as a head coach, but his first year with the Chargers. So that's a franchise that's going through some things. I need to see Justin Herbert finish games. He may be able to do that this year, but we're going to have to wait and see. And it needs to be proven to me that they can do that. So I think it'll be a very tough game. But if the Titans have a chance to pull that one out, despite their history of not faring well on the West Coast for a long time, I won't. Yeah. So, the travel, etc., that could go against them. That said, Chargers is going to have to prove to me that they can win the game.
All right, then we have a home game against the Vikings. And again, the Vikings are another team almost like the Bills, where they kind of lost steam. They're kind of just there. I'm not too, I wouldn't say not too worried, because obviously every NFL team there's a chance of them winning. What do you think about the Vikings?
That should be a home win simply because of the loss of players that they've got on the Vikings roster. Now, that said, if injury, as Titan fans know too well from the last 3 seasons, you have injuries at the wrong spot, then that can wipe out any advantage that you've got in a situation. So, but that on paper at this point of the year, it should be a game that the Titans win.
Okay.
And and give them a big chance, big step forward in reclaiming their home field advantage.
Definitely, because that'll be the 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th home game they played that in the season. So then we have their second AFC South matchup against the Houston Texans, which, as of right now on paper, people saying it, they are the most favored to win the AFC South. What do you think about that?
They're the reigning champions, so that's why they're the favorites. CJ Stroud had an amazing rookie
He
year.
really did.
Very impressive. And then they've added Danico Autry and Azeez Al-Shaair from the Titans, gave them more money. I don't have a problem with the Titans not overpaying to keep them because, you can't spend all your money on all the guys. And with Autry and Al-Shaair leaving, well, that allowed them to bring in Ridley for a huge position of need and do some things like that. Lloyd Cushenberry, sign some free agents guys that they needed in key positions of need. But that one at Houston, that could be a really tough game but if the Titans are wearing those Houston Oilers throwbacks, all bets are off. That might be like waving a red flag at a bull for the Houston Texans, but let's just put it this way. Those games between these two teams, you can't turn away. It doesn't matter how bad either team is. That game always goes to the final seconds.
Definitely 100%. And especially, it's almost like stomping the yellow towel, the dirty towel, for the Steelers. It's like something about it. It's like they put the Houston Oilers, and it's like, man, I had so much hate when I did one of the videos about that throwback game that we had last year and just talking about it. That so many people interacting from Houston just bashing me, and I was being respectful, but man, they can't stand it. I think it just gives them more animosity towards Titan fans and the Titans organization.
Well, that's true, but here's the difference, and this is where they make their mistake. When Art Modell was taking his team to Baltimore, Cleveland made such a fuss. It's like, no, you're leaving the Browns, the logo, the uniforms. We get to keep those. That's our history. And they made the deal to let the team go. That's how they created the Baltimore Ravens. But when Houston essentially told Bud Adams, don't let the door split you, or hit you where the good Lord, yes. They didn't say we want to keep the Houston Oiler uniforms or the logo or anything. And I'm going to defer to Warren Moon, who played in the run and shoot Oiler days in Houston wearing that gear, that it belongs to the Tennessee Titans because they brought it with them. And yes, they played 2 seasons as the Tennessee Oilers with that oil rig. And yes, I remember all the Tennessee fans in 96, 97, 98 saying, well, we don't have oil wells in Tennessee. Yes, there are some, just not as many as Texas. But so, but you cannot make everybody happy, and there's going to be people upset on both sides. But hey, I'll just say this. It is what it is, and it is one of the sweetest throwback uniforms in the entire NFL.
100%. I agree with you. It's that Columbia blue is something real nice. I would like to see them actually go back and change the helmets and do maybe the silver helmet. That would be kind of cool too. See if they do that.
Well, they're getting. I think they're getting permission for that 3rd helmet. So I'm really or
okay.
2nd helmet, whatever. But we'll see how that ends up looking. It's funny that colleges can do 14 million helmets, and the NFL is just now finally saying, okay, we can. So come on, guys, you're the big boys.
Are they? Do you know when they're actually going to announce the 2 games that they're going to do a throwback, or no? That's closer to the season.
I think it's closer to the season just because they want to, they want to, rev it up a little bit. Probably going to do it when they do the reunion weekend. And by the way, the reunion weekend of former Oilers was the highest attendance of former Oilers and Titans that they'd had to date because of Amy Adams-Strunk's outreach to former players, bringing them into the fold. It's not like the Houston Texans are saying to the former Oilers,
Yeah,
hey, come
over
be
here,
a part of us. Exactly. You're not part, so it's like they want the uniforms, but they don't want the players who played in them. It doesn't make much sense, does it?
So as of right now, usually the home opener. Yeah, your hands are dirty. Go over there, buddy. Usually for the not the home opener, but like the homecoming games are usually set in October. And as of right now, looking at the schedule, the only home game right now is October 13th. That it might be that one. I don't know if they'll push it past till the Patriots game November 3rd. I don't know, but it's usually
Hey, do it the last weekend when you're bringing Houston to town. If you want to do it. I mean, if you really want,
yeah, that would be.
The Houston Texans folks have been very salty this offseason. If you want payback, that might be the weekend to pull it out. I'm just saying, Miss Amy, if you're listening over there, to the folks in the front office, that might be a great weekend, depending on how this season turns out.
That would be some stuff there. The next game we have, it's an away game in Washington. We play the Commanders, and not too familiar with the team. To be honest with you, I know the last time we played them was with Carson Wentz. Is he on that team still? I have no idea.
No, and I couldn't tell you where Carson Wentz is. I think maybe him and Gardner Minshew have become the Josh McCown of today's era. They're always going to be with some team somewhere, and they'll get a chance to play and start, and we'll be surprised at how well they do. But at that point of the year, that's a game that they need to go into. If this comes together with the money spent and everything that they've got going, if this is the way that they're trying to compete this year. And for the people who are saying, oh, I don't know, that might be a little optimistic. This is the NFL. The Houston Texans got the #1 pick. And well, they should have had the #1 picks. Lovie Smith kind of, just when you think he messed them up, he did them a solid by getting them the 2 spot. But they draft 2 overall, new coach, new quarterback, won the division, went from worst to first in one season. It happens almost every single year these days in the NFL. There's no reason why the Tennessee Titans can't. So yes, I'm not overly optimistic. I'm simply looking at the facts of the way the NFL is built. You are rewarded immediately for making the right decisions. And going to Washington at that time of the year, if this team is what it can be, they should win that game.
Definitely. And shout out again, don't care for the Houston Texans, but the head coach, D'Amico Ryans, I mean, what a season. What a coach.
Tremendous. I mean, he took what seemingly had been a dumpster fire ×5 and turned them into champs. So, and developed a quarterback at the same time. And they dealt with injuries as well. You can't dismiss that. So he's done an incredible job in the first year. Now the challenge in the NFL is doing it again.
Exactly.
And again and again.
And continue that consistent run. Now we can't say too much about the next team we're playing is the Jacksonville. Okay, it's a home game. Jacksonville again they had so much hype on Trevor Lawrence this, Trevor Lawrence that, and they kind of started like diminishing and going back burner. What do you think about Jacksonville?
Well, I think it's going to help the Titans that they've got one of his receivers in Calvin Ridley. So again, I'm really curious to see what happens with the Jaguars because, they had a lot of money. They looked like they were heading in the right direction. And, but let's be honest, the reason that the Titans didn't win that division title in Jacksonville was I still think Josh Dobbs' arm was going forward, and they ruled that. So I disagreed with the penalty in that situation. The way that ball turned over, the scoop and score 6, whatever they called it. That if it's a different quarterback with a bigger name, he's going to get that. Yeah, he's going to get that call. So Jacksonville feels like they've been playing on some borrowed time. and they've got more travel this year. So I am really curious to see which direction that franchise goes. Because they just approved renovations to the Gator Bowl. They're gonna spend a ton of money renovating that stadium. So at this point, I've got more faith in the Colts and the Houston Texans in this division. The Jaguars, I need to see what they're doing right now because it doesn't make a lot of sense.
And that's happened before in recent years too, is where they start off, they have a really, really good year, and then the following year they kind of fall off. It happened when Blake Bortles was there and they went to the AFC Championship against the Patriots. I mean, that team was really, really good for a Jacksonville Jaguars. That defense was remarkable. And then the next year after that, they kind of fell flat and kind of just dismantled. So
they were 10 minutes away from a Super Bowl berth, and have gone downhill since then. So, and that was under Doug Marrone. We'll see what, this current coach can do to build and fix but Jacksonville, it's not easy to do what they do. And, I saw a stat recently that showed that, since a certain period, the Titans were like 7th in the NFL for best winning percentage. And, some Titan fans were like, wait, that doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel real because, well, the way the last 2 seasons ended hurt. Those leave a lasting impression, and the Jaguars are going to have to overcome the lasting impression that they've made, which is the way they struggled last season. Can they get past that? Did they replace the people they lost? And did they overpay Christian Kirk? Is the question I think we'll really find an answer to this year.
Definitely. And then the next game is a home game. Brian Callahan's former team, the Bengals, come to town. And again, it's been a competitive game when you have the Tennessee Titans and Bengals. And it's become a nice little rivalry, just, the playoffs and stuff like that. What do you think about the Bengals and their direction they're going right now?
Well, I don't know if I agree with the fan in the video, the schedule release video, that they're going down, but it does. No, they still have Jamar Chase. They still have T. Higgins. They still have Joe Burrow. And if he is healthy, then it's going to come down to what they're going to be a threat, and it'll come down to what the players do on the field themselves. It'll be that simple because, has Will Levis continued to grow? What's his connection with his receivers? What are they doing together as an offense? And how healthy is the defense? I think Chido Awuzie is going to be very motivated. And we know what, L'Jarius Sneed has played against the Bengals. So, and he's been a shutdown corner when he's played against them. So it'll come down to who plays better that day, because guess what? Zach Taylor, Brian Callahan, they know each other really well. They've spent 5 years together on a staff. And they can probably almost guess what the other one's going to do, but that's when it goes to the players on the field making something happen, forcing a turnover, strip sacking Joe Burrow. Taking him to the ground is not going to be enough. You're going to have to get the ball out.
We experienced that already in the playoffs.
Exactly. Get some turnovers, and that'll probably be the deciding factor.
Definitely. And then there's this stretch, which is really, really important. Obviously, AFC South opponents. We play the Colts, Jags, and the last game is going to be against Houston. What do you make of this little stretch, and is this the most important stretch of the schedule?
Absolutely, because it's in the division, and you can salvage a season by winning your division. And with 3 games to finish like that, yes, I know that they're going to be in the dome. Well, guess what? The roof won't be open in late December. Jacksonville, the weather should be gorgeous that time of year.
Down in nice. Yeah, it should be good.
It's going to be gorgeous down there, and maybe it's a little wet, but again, Will Levis, if he can take a catfish snap to him by Lloyd Cushenberry, I think he can handle a wet ball. So I won't be surprised if those final 3 weeks are deciding the final order in the AFC South. And the team that wins the regular season finale very well could be the AFC South champs this year.
There it is. And that is the 2024 Titans schedule. Now, I forgot what number they had this as the most difficult schedule. I think, I don't know if you remember.
It's one of the easiest ones in the league, but the problem is it's based on last year, and with the changeover in rosters, coaches, you name it,
You
and
can't
and
really, yeah,
exactly, you can't use that. So it's like it's a nice little thing to talk about at this time of the year, and that means absolutely nothing because they're not playing last year's teams; they're playing this year's team.
absolutely, 100%. Well, I want to first of all thank you for breaking down the schedule with me, actually coming on, talking football with me. Like I said, everyone in Nashville, anyone in Tennessee loves you. Again, I'm from out of town, and I enjoy your work and appreciate all your insight and stuff. And look forward to more of your work, and look forward to seeing you more on the show and get you on maybe in the middle of the season or something like that. I know you're very busy. Like I said, the Grizzlies disappointing the Preds. I mean, surprising. Again, I'm a I'm a New York Knicks fan, and I'm a New
You're very happy right now.
Yes, I mean until we play Boston. Until we play Boston, I mean, well, again, the series is not over. You can't count out the Pacers. So, but yes, as of right now, it's nice. I haven't been this happy since 2013 when we had Carmelo Anthony. But other than that, Yankees fan. A lot of people don't like that I'm a Yankees fan, but again, I'm from Jersey, so Tennessee is where I kind of went off the rail. I wasn't a Jet fan and wasn't a Giants fan. Yeah, my dad was a big Dolphins fan. Dan Marino. Growing up, that's all I watched is Dan Marino. But kind of wanted to separate it and get my own team. But other than that, I want to say thank you so much for your hard work and for coming on. It's been an honor to have you on. I really have.
My pleasure. We'll have to do this again a lot sooner, and we'll see how this season goes. The one good thing about it being May, and as a Chicago Cubs fan
Okay.
growing up, optimism is always eternal in April and May, no matter the sport. So everybody should be shooting for the moon. Why? Because that's the way Pete Rozelle designed this league. The NFL was meant for everybody to have a chance.
Yep, 100%. Again, thank you so much, and I appreciate it. And you have a good day, okay?
You too. Thank you so much, Alex.